Well, the Ducks interpreted Mike Gundy's comments differently than I did, and it went very well.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for a reaction episode of Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Full reaction from yesterday's beatdown at Autzen. That seems like too nice of a word, too soft of a word. I don't know how else to describe it. A thrashing, an annihilation. I don't know. Come up with some clever words. Hit the old thesaurus in the comments section below. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. If you want to go to an Oregon game this year, Game Time is the way to do it. And why wouldn't you want to go? Because, boy, they're a fun team to watch. This was, once again, a perfect performance. Could this have started any better? My three keys for Oregon to get a convincing win against Oklahoma State went like this. Key number one, score early. Yeah, they did that. 2 touchdowns in the first 3 plays. Key number 2, win third down. Oh, look, Oklahoma State as a team was 4 of 16 on third down. Oregon was 7 of 12. And key number 3, pressure the quarterback. Oregon had 2 sacks. Zane Flores was rattled. He looked like a backup quarterback making his first career start on the road at Autzen Stadium, which was a great environment as always. And guess what? That's exactly what he was. So I applaud Tosh LeBoy and Oregon's defense for making him look that way. But the ease that Oregon is putting everybody's minds in these first 2 games of the year, they can't all go like this, right? It can't look like this every single week. I don't think it will. Oregon hasn't played one of its toughest opponents yet. Oregon hasn't played one of its 3 or 4 toughest opponents on the schedule this year. I think Penn State's probably number 1. I don't know how high I can put Iowa on that list because they don't really score, but they can play defense. It can get weird. I'd put Washington up there. Indiana and USC would be up there as well as the toughest games on Oregon's schedule. These weren't them, but how much better can you look? That's what I keep wondering. You know, in the reaction video I posted to Twitter for a couple of minutes, I was wondering, what is the worst part about the Oregon team right now? Like, what's the worst unit? What's the worst group? What's the group, if I say it's the worst group that Oregon has? It doesn't mean that group is performing poorly. Nobody's performing poorly. This has been 8 quarters of a masterclass to maximize talent. And I am pretty surprised, pleasantly, don't ask me questions about the Penn State game, that's later, about how clean everything is. The coaching staff deserves a lot of credit here because there aren't that many returning starters from last year, just a handful. And yet, Oregon looks like they haven't skipped a beat. And in some ways are even better than they were a year ago. Now, there are a number of different position groups you could point to and say, that one's better, maybe that one isn't quite as good. But on the whole, look at how the team looks in these first 2 games compared to last year's first 2 games. And they're doing it with a first-time, full-time starting quarterback, 4 new starters on the offensive line, a bunch of new guys playing in the secondary, and they lost the guy who was expected to be their leading receiver, Evan Stewart. He might come back this year. He could. But do you feel like that is a pressing need at the moment? Because I certainly don't. They're out there drawing up plays for Cooper Perry on a 4th down. Why? Because the dude looks good, and he's a true freshman. Like, the way that this roster is playing is intensely satisfying to watch, especially for, I imagine, those Oregon fans who, like myself, vividly remember the Mario Cristobal days that had a lot of great things. Mario, by the way, doing a good job at Miami right now. Got a great win against Notre Dame, but what was the hallmark of that era at times? Playing down to the level of your competition. Well, that's not what Oregon's done here. And you know what? I stand by what I said. I don't think Mike Gundy went into his press conference thinking, I'm going to take a shot at Oregon. I can't stand those guys. I want to do this and that. I think he was trying to talk to his fans, his donors, to set expectations for the game and for the program going forward. I still believe that was his intent. Now, Dan Lanning and the team, based on their post-game press conference comments, didn't interpret it that way. And guess what? That's exactly what they should do. You push whatever button you need to go out there and be in the mindset of, I am going to dominate that guy over there. I'm going to win every single play. And this is such a team-wide mentality that we've seen from Oregon in the first couple of games. It is double down, you could say. But really the word that comes to my mind is dominate. They look like they want to dominate. Everybody wants to dominate their opponent on every single play. We cannot draw every conclusion in the world about this Oregon team because of the competition that they have played so far. What you can say is there's nothing about the first two games that you shouldn't feel good about. There's nothing. They have started strong. They have finished strong. They have been good situationally. They've been good on both sides of the ball. They're getting a bunch of guys involved. Everything that you could possibly have want to have seen by now has been there. What was my number one thing for my everydayers out there? You may or may not remember. That's okay. That's what I'm here for. What did I say about Dante Moore going into this game? Would like to see some more deep shots. See if he can push the ball down the field. Up! Second touchdown within the first 2 minutes of the football game. Little double move to DeCorian Moore after he spins and rolls left, puts it on his hands, and DeCorian is just special. Man, like that guy, true freshman. I can't wait to watch him for 3 full seasons of college football. He is going to do awesome stuff. Not just this year, but think about it. Next year and the year after, he is required to play college football. Cannot go to the NFL draft until then. So that's really exciting because he's living up to the hype. I mean, the rushing touchdown, the long receiving touchdown, the blocking, he's got the whole package. But what this Oregon team is showing you is, hey, all the talent they have accumulated over the last couple of cycles, it wasn't a facade. We've seen what the potential is. They can't beat every team on their schedule 69-3, which is a hilarious score for several reasons. But they can't do that to every team on the schedule. But if they play in this same way, hard to keep up with them. It's one of those things where, hey, here's what it is on paper. On paper, it's one of the most talented rosters in all of college football. Not as experienced, but the talent is there. The potential is there. Well, when you see that potential start to get realized, you go, what's the ceiling of this team? Like, is this the best football they're going to play? Typically, teams get better as the year goes on. I don't think we can know everything about them yet because they haven't been challenged. They deserve all the credit, and it should excite you that they're playing at this level through the first 2 games. Because that means the next 2 shouldn't be much of a problem, and they should roll into Penn State with all the hype in the world for that game. By the way, remember when that was locked into game day for Alabama, Georgia? Tennessee and Georgia is game day this week. I'm just going to throw that out there, and Alabama's overrated. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. That could be really fun. But this team should excite you. There's no doubt. They're an exciting team to watch. They are ready to play. They play sound football. Yeah, they messed up a 2-point conversion sequence there. I kind of thought he got set. Maybe they were talking about another player. I don't know. It was nice that happened, and you went, wait, what? How did that? And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because Oregon's just playing to their standard. And if they do that throughout the course of the year, they will be right back in the college football playoff. So those are my initial thoughts on Saturday's beatdown of Oklahoma State. I want to hear yours. Drop them in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. All that good stuff. The best moments of the game, we're going to relive those on the show. Why wouldn't we? First, this episode brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. So if you need parts for a project fast, Supply House is the place you want to go. Next day delivery, that is what we call a game changer. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free. Use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And you get real ticket service over with my friends at Game Time. College football's back. I'm excited. You're excited. We're all loving watching the Ducks kick butt and take names. It's great. The tailgates, rivalries, energy in the stands, it's all there. There's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets to the game can be a hassle. If you want to go watch this Oregon team play in person, make sure you use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. That's my favorite part. What you see is what you pay. I can't stand ticketing services that are like, oh yeah, here's the price, here's the price. Boom, tack it on at the end. Nope, I want to know what it is up front. Game Time allows you to see just that. They're simplifying the ticket buying process. So if you want to go to an Oregon game this year, home or away or neutral site one day, hey, this is the place to do it. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Nothing like post beatdown victory second segment sips. Those are like the best kind, you know? And there are a lot of great types of second segment sips. Let's talk about the best moments of this game because, man, there's so many that I could go to. I'm starting with the deep ball from Dante Moore to DeCorian Moore. That was perhaps my favorite moment of the game. There's a holistic moment that showed up in a number of different plays. That was kind of my favorite thing. It's called perimeter blocking. I can't get enough of it, truly, from everybody. But on this show, my everydayers out there know this. Appreciate you all for being that, by the way. I talk about every player that comes to the Ducks. I talk about them many times during the offseason. And it's very easy to think about, because that's what I'm literally doing, thinking out loud, what the potential is. And sometimes, potential doesn't get maximized for one reason or another. Justin Flo, Jurion Dickey come to mind. So far for Jurion Dickey. But Justin Flo, probably the best example of that. Who, by the way, is on the UNLV team that just beat Nico Iamaleava and UCLA. I'm glad Oregon got Dante Moore that cycle instead of Nico Iamaleava. So, anyway, when you talk about potential, some guys have more than others. Dante Moore and DeCorian Moore are two of the higher-rated recruits in the history of Oregon football. Dante Moore, as a high school recruit, of course, didn't commit to Oregon, so he's not going to show up on the 24/7 all-time high school rankings list, but he'd be up there really, really high. And so DeCorian is the second highest rated recruit of all time. You don't always know if those guys' skill sets translate. Oregon's not the only school to have big names on the recruiting trail commit that don't wind up working out for whatever reason. Some guys just aren't as good. Some guys just need a different situation. Some guy, whatever the case may be. When you talk about these guys with your friends, or when I talk about these two guys, the potential that they have together is as high as any quarterback receiver tandem in all of college football. That is not hyperbole. Now, Jeremiah Smith is the best individual receiver in all of college football. And Julian Sayin is a guy that's got immense potential. But what those two guys are capable of doing together and how you hear them get discussed by national media outlets and TV broadcasts and whatnot, Dante and DeCorian have they're different players than Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith, but they have the same sort of potential. So when I see Dante Moore orchestrate the spin out, roll left, double move, and put the ball right on DeCorian's hands, who then has not just the ability to make the catch, but the wherewithal to juke between the safety and cause those guys to collide into each other for a one-play touchdown, that is like the greatest, for me, that is the greatest exhale of relief or excitement or I don't even know. A combination of those two things is like, oh, these two guys can do it. So when I watched that play, and by the way, Malik Benson's doing a lot of great things as well. Without Evan Stewart in the fold, Oregon needed a deep threat. Justice Lowe hasn't proven to be that guy consistently. Gary Bryan hasn't been that sort of guy consistently. And so DeCorian Moore being a legitimate option to push the ball down the field, yeah, that's important for the offense, but it's exciting. It's just fun to watch. And so those two guys already having this sort of connection and making those sorts of plays in game 2, they're in game 2, for goodness sake. And they're just out there connecting like they've done this 50 times before for, what was it, a 65-yard touchdown. It's awesome. It's awesome. So that was one of my favorite moments of the game. Another one that comes to mind. Back-to-back pick sixes. I don't know that I've ever seen Oregon do that before. I don't know that they have done that before. But this is an Oregon defense. We've talked about Tosh Lupoi a lot over the summer, and I don't think anybody's opinion of him has changed because we've seen these performances against this caliber against. I don't know why. I do know why I can't pronounce it. I didn't really sleep last night. Against lower caliber competition, we have seen a Tosh Lupoi coordinated defense play like this. Not 2 touchdowns, though. Not Jerry Mixon pick 6, then Peyton Woodyard pick 6. That moment was kind of the encapsulation of what was so great to watch about this game. The biggest play that Oregon allowed that led to Oklahoma State's only points of the game was what looked to me, when I watched the replay of it, like Naeem Offord got crossed up on what the coverage was. Oregon came with 0 pressure. Typically, that's man-to-man coverage. He left his man and stayed in on his third or in his quarter, depending on how he thought the defensive back alignment was supposed to be. It looked like he should have stayed with his man running across the field. That was the only big play of the game. A true freshman who's incredibly talented, and so far, I think looks pretty darn good, making a coverage mistake. There was a cross-up somewhere. He stayed in zone. Everybody else was in man. I think he's wrong. I didn't ask Dan Lanning about it because I wasn't there. But, again, I feel like I'm on pretty solid ground saying, yeah, he got crossed up. Okay, when that's the only play you can look at as the defense didn't do this right and everything else was suffocating, it was physical, it was in Zane Flores' head. Like, I got to the point where I kind of felt bad for the kid. Like, man, he got thrown into the fire. He's not supposed to be starting this football game. Would Haas Haney have made this competitive? No. Would he have been better than Zane Flores? Yeah, that's why he was ahead of him on the depth chart. But just for the defense in that moment to score those 2 touchdowns, and you look around and go, oh my gosh, Oregon could hang 70 plus on a Power 4 team that scored 3 points. That was pretty great. Pretty darn great. The third moment, and I could go into a number of them. Drop yours in the comments below because, boy, I just couldn't get enough of watching this game. It's really satisfying to watch all of this come together and for a team to play to its potential. You know, and that's part of what made the Rose Bowl so frustrating. Oregon wasn't playing to its potential. I know because I watched those teams play earlier in the season and Oregon won the football game. But when you see a team that has all that promise or all that hope, it's really satisfying to watch them play their best when it matters. And it's equally discouraging to watch them and just kind of be out. Like Oregon basketball, for instance, was in the round of 32 against Arizona. You know what their potential was? They were up like 17, 20 points or so in the early going. Now, that was never going to sustain against a good Arizona team, but they stopped playing to their potential. They rolled back. They started playing hesitant. They weren't aggressive. They weren't being tenacious, and that ultimately led to their season coming to a close in the round of 32 for a second straight season. That was different than the year before, where, yeah, if one or two things situationally had been different, Oregon gets past Creighton and goes to the Sweet 16. But what's great about watching this Oregon team right now is through 2 games, you cannot lob any sort of legitimate criticism at the Oregon team and say they're not playing to their full potential. They are. Everybody is. And everybody's getting in on the action. It's so much fun to watch. They're getting guys involved in different ways. The the synchronicity of the coaching staff and the team and the way they're executing is pretty flawless. It's pretty flawless. So I guess that third one wasn't a moment so much of a sentiment as the way that the team is playing. They don't look like a bunch of guys that are just going out there and doing their job. They look like a bunch of guys that are going out there and doing their job for each other, that are playing a cohesive brand of football that is just dominant at the moment. It is completely and utterly dominant. So those would be my favorite moments of the game. But I want to know what yours were. Drop them in the comments below. There are a lot I could have gone to. You know, the Whittington long touchdown run was great. DeCorian's touchdown run was awesome. He got a couple of great blocks. Kenyon Sadiq and Jamari Johnson have to be the best pair of blocking tight ends in all of college football. I mean, holy smokes, those guys are just road pavers. They are flattening anybody that dares get in their way. Sadiq is awesome. But anyway, drop your favorite moments in the comments below. Still have more to get to. I'm going to talk about it more on Monday's show. And I know you guys all wanted this show sooner, but sometimes travel schedule is difficult for me. But I expected one side of the ball to be where they're at. I did not expect the other side. And a reality we need to accept that doesn't make a difference. So through 2 games, my score predictions are 2-0 against the spread, which is Oregon covering both times as a 28.5-ish point favorite. They have covered that pretty comfortably. And, I mean, the halftime score was just gross. Like, it was, I mean, awesome. Like, in the best way for Oregon. But it was, that thing was getting ugly really, really quick. Now, through 2 games, my score predictions have been for Oregon to allow 6 points to Montana State and 13 points for Oklahoma State. A quick math calculation tells me that is 19 points total. They gave up 13 to Montana State, and they gave up 3 to Oklahoma State. So through 2 games, they've allowed 16 points, and I expected them at this point to have allowed 19 points. So the defense is playing the way I expected them to. The offense is way ahead of where I thought they'd be. Now, this potential, I don't even know that I even saw this level of potential by the end of the year. And again, we still have, there is still more to prove. I saw Jordan Scott tweet out correctly that, hey, you know, it's good to be excited, but we got to wait until they go play Penn State because the 4 opponents they have to start somehow look even worse. Montana State's an FCS team, so that's just what it is. But the 4 teams they have to start look worse even than we thought coming into the year. I mean, Northwestern got punked by Tulane in week 1, and Oregon State, oh boy. It is not a fun time to be a Beavs football fan right now. Not fun. Not fun. And it's not going to get better because they play at Texas Tech this week, and then they play at Oregon. Not a good time to be a Beef. But the offense is so far ahead of where I expected it to be. New quarterback, new receivers, lose a veteran receiver, 4 new offensive linemen. And it's seamless. I mean, everything they're doing, they look like they've been doing it for 3 seasons already. You know, Clemson is my preseason national championship pick. And yikes to that prediction, first of all. Second of all, one of the reasons I felt that way is they were a good team last year, and they brought back almost the entire team, and they have one of the best quarterbacks in college football who I really like in Cade Klubnik. And they have the same offensive system. If you watched Clemson's offense through the first 2 weeks, admittedly, they played LSU week 1, who's really talented, and I picked as a playoff team this year. But they were down 16-0 at home against Troy recently. And if you compared Oregon's first 2 games to Clemson's first 2 games and presented them to a knowledgeable college football fan and said, hey, which one of these teams is working in a new quarterback and basically an all-new offense, and which one has been running the same system for 3 years in a row? You wouldn't pick Oregon as the one working in all the new things, and yet they are. This level of clicking and connection, I thought could be possible perhaps by the end of the season, once guys had some time to gel. It's literally been from the first play. From the first play of the season, this is how the offense has looked. There were more explosive passing plays, nice tongue twister there, this week than last week. That was a difference. But overall, Oregon did whatever it wanted to at any point in time. They're running different formations. They're presenting different looks. They are giving the defense different types of throws to defend. They're using different players. You never have any idea where the ball is going. Typically, under bets in college football, week 1 hit at like a 64% clip this year. That's usually because early in the season, defenses are usually ahead of offenses, because defense is more about read and react. Obviously, there are play calling elements. You can have communication errors like Naeem Offord had with the guys on the big play for Oklahoma State. Or, DeCorian Moore blocking the wrong guy that was offense. But, it can be little stuff like that. Typically on offense, you need more time to gel to really maximize your potential. And yet, how much more maximized could Oregon's offense look? If they'd kept the starters in the entire game, I think the Autzen Jumbotron might have needed a third digit, as a famous group once said. That's what it looked like. And for it to look like that, not just in week 2, but from the moment this offense is taking the field, is astonishing, frankly. I am so wonderfully shocked at how well the offense has played together and how they do the details right and how they are executing well. They are not sloppy. They are not fumbling the ball. They are not missing play calls. None of that. So that's the unit that has surprised me the most. Defense, special teams, right what I expected. Yeah, Atticus Sappington missed a 50-plus yard field goal. I guess that makes them the worst unit. Okay, I feel fine about Oregon's kicking game. Feel pretty good, actually. Watched Sappington last year. Dude's good. He's not a 50-plus yard leg guy. You don't need that very often. You don't. I need you to be good from 45 and in. From 45 and in, I need you to be 80+%. And then in a big spot, as Sappington has shown he can do, you got to be able to make field goals, whether that was, against Boise State, the game winner last year, or at Wisconsin when the offense was sluggish. That's what it needs to be. So he's got that. The other thing I wanted to get to is it's pretty clear through 2 weeks that Makhi Hughes is not going to be Oregon's number 1 running back. Based on what we've seen, it's now, I think unsurprising that the staff has made Noah Whittington the guy. Whittington looks better than ever, man. I mean, it's awesome. And if this is going to be a running back by committee all year, fine. Totally fine with that. If you're going to have Noah be your primary guy, but then give plenty of carries to Jaden Lamar, who's running the ball better than he ever has before, and Jay Harris, who's a bigger body, different change of pace back, and maybe a little Dink Riggs or Makhi Hughes in there, fine. I'm perfectly good with that. But after watching Hughes get some more touches, yeah, he looks slow. He looks a little slow. I don't think he's bad. I mean, he's built. He's got some power. Like, he didn't show nothing, but he doesn't look like one of the best running backs, and the staff has made the same conclusion. And, I've just accepted in my head. I'm not waiting for Makhi Hughes to figure out the playbook, and then he's going to be, 20 to 25 carries a game like Jordan James last year. No. He's just a guy. Oregon's 4th or 5th best running back is a 2,700-yard rusher at Tulane the last 2 years. Okay, great. That's a pretty awesome place to be. A lot of other places would need a guy like that. Oregon has him in case they need him, but doesn't actually need him with the way this running back room looks. So it's different than it's been in the past, where it's typically been a 2-headed monster. But if you go back to 2023, it was going to be a 3-headed monster with Bucky, Jordan James, and Whittington, but Whittington got hurt, so it was a 2-headed attack. But I think you're just going to see 3 or 4 guys throughout the year. Now, maybe that it tightens to more like 2.5 guys by the time they play better opponents throughout the season, but, I mean, no, Whittington looks great. Jay Harris looks good. They're physical. They're playing hard. Jalen Lamar's running the ball well. Yeah. Makhi Hughes is not the guy that we thought he was going to be. And it's okay. That's why, let's talk about all offseason recruiting. And the portal matters a pretty hefty amount. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And go Ducks.